Good morning, or by now I guess it's already good afternoon. A little bit late in starting to give this class because, as you can see, I'm not in my office. I'm actually in Brooklyn, Crown Heights, and I take this opportunity over here to, and it's connected to the Parsha, to thank the Almighty for an amazing blessing. This week, God willing, I'll be marrying off one of my children, together with my wife, of course. And that's a huge blessing. It's a huge blessing when you are able to marry off your child. So I thought, in honor of that, and in the connection of this week's Parsha, let me tell you how the Parsha begins this week. The Parsha begins with the mitzvah given to Aharon HaKohen, Aharon the high priest. And the mitzvah over there is, Bahalotcha et ha'anerot. It's the mitzvah of lighting the menorah in the tabernacle, in the holy temple. And over there it says to Aharon the instructions of what he should do when he lights the menorah. And it says, Bahalotcha et ha'anerot, when you light the candles in the menorah, in the holy temple, you should light 7 candles, unlike the Hanukkah menorah, which is 8 candles. And it goes on to give various instructions. One of the questions that is asked is why the Torah uses the term Ba'alotcha, which means to light the menorah, but more literally means when you raise up the candles. And Rashi tells us that there was actually steps. The menorah was a very tall menorah, and Aaron actually had to go up a couple of steps in order to light the menorah, and it says Ba'alotcha for that reason. But I once heard, and I believe I've shared this over the years, I once heard from the Rebbe a deeper explanation of what Bahalotcha Tanerot means. Bahalotcha means when you raise up the candles. There's also a reference on a more spiritual level, or on a deeper level, when you raise both students and children, Bahalotcha Tanerot, because Rashi says that the word Bahalotcha also means that the Torah is implying over here that when Aharon, or instructing, that when Aharon lights the menorah, you know, when you light a candle, you could sometimes sort of light it quickly and then you move on. But he has to light it at Shetehei. This is the language of Rashi taken from the Talmud. You should light it at Shetehei Shalhevet Olam Eleo. You should light the menorah until the flame is totally rising up on its own. It's totally sort of burning on its own. And the Rebbe learned a beautiful lesson from this, stating that when you ignite the candles of your students, a lesson for a teacher, or your kindalach, a lesson for your children, you should light it in such a way, you should inspire them, you should teach them, you should raise them up in such a way where you're not just quickly giving them some quick burst of inspiration, but you're actually lighting them in a way that they can then totally burn and live the life that you have taught and inspired them, where they could stand on their own. It has been so much inculcated within them. It has so much become part of them that they are now burning on their own, and they don't continuously need to come back to you for you to hold their hands and so on. And that is on a deeper level what the Torah in this week's coming Torah portion is telling us with Bahalotcha et Hanerot. So this is, of course, a beautiful message for a teacher, for a parent. And as I'm thanking God here for the marriage of my son, which is going to happen this coming Tuesday night, and by the way, if you hear this class, you are invited and you're welcome to join us. The wedding is in New Jersey, and you're welcome to join us. So I want to maybe give a thought or two on marriage in general, again, in honor of my son who's getting married. My son Shlomo Zev, who's marrying his wonderful bride, Sonia, and of course we wish them blessing. So I want to give a quick thought on marriage. And this is taken actually from the Talmud. The Talmud tells us, it's a known thought for those who are a little more familiar with the Talmud. The Talmud tells us that the word ish and isha. Ish means a man, isha means a woman. So the words ish and isha are made up of the same letters, and they each have their own unique letter. So ish has the letter aleph and shin, for those who you remember your Hebrew teachings. And the word isha also has an aleph and a shin. Ish, again, meaning man, isha meaning woman. Now, ish has an additional letter in between the aleph and the shin, and that's the yud. And the isha, which means woman, has an additional letter, which is the hey. Now, if you take the letter yud and you take the letter hey, together it makes up the word yud k. We don't pronounce the word because it's actually God's name. And the Talmud and Rashi explains that it teaches us that for ish and isha to have a successful marriage, they need to have the name yud, the letter yud and hey, in their marriage. Because Yud and Hey, if they invite God into their marriage, which means that they understand that their marriage is not just something that is between the two of them, but there's a purpose, there's a meaning to the marriage. There is a higher purpose. There is a mission. The first mitzvah, the first thing God told Adam and Eve after He created them, is that they should come together as one in order to create a family, pru'urvu, to be fruitful and to multiply. So when you understand that there's something greater than the two of you in this marriage, which introduces humility, introduces meaning, introduces purpose into the marriage, that is essential and key and a guarantee for success and peace at home, a wholesome home, a home where you could raise children, which is the most important thing for children, for healthy children, is to have a peaceful home between mother and father. So when you have the Yud and the Hey introduced in that marriage, and incidentally, just to introduce a little Kabbalah here, there's a reason why there's a Yud by the man and the Hey by the woman. Kabbalah tells us the Yud represents, the Yud is a very small letter representing the man's seed and contribution and his giving in the marriage. The Hey represents taking that seed and allowing it to develop. Even biologically, there's what the man brings into the healthy contribution to the family and to the children that will come. The woman, through pregnancy, is where the seed is developed into a healthy child. So too, in general, it is the man that brings to the marriage certain thoughts and ideas, and it's the woman that develops it and brings it out into reality, being that she is the one, as the Torah recognizes, the one that's more down to earth and can take some of the ideas and say, well, this one works, this doesn't work. So it is sort of nourished in a healthy way to set up a beautiful family. So that's why you have the Yud, says Kabbalah, in the man who, because he has more time and dedication to study of Torah, brings home the ideas and the values. It is the woman who then takes the ideas and develops it. That's the Hey. So you have the Yud and the Hey, which together make God's name, and then you have a healthy and meaningful and purposeful and holy union, a marriage, Ish and Isha. If, God forbid, the Yud and the Hey are ejected and thrown out of the marriage, God is thrown out of the relationship, all you have left is an Aleph and a Shin, which makes up the word Eish, which represents the fire of machloket, the fire of arguing, the fire of fighting, the passion and anger that comes out of unhealthy marriage, where it's only about I and myself and what is how it provides and fulfills my needs and my desires and my selfishness and so on, and then it's a fire that enters into that marriage and says nishkut, it's no good. So this, when marriage is greater than yourself, that's the Yud and the Hey represented in the Ish and the Isha. Now, there's no question that talking about Bahalotcha, that when you raise up the flame, it can stand on its own feet. Marriage, when you merit with Hashem's thank you, or with a thank you to Hashem, with the blessings that He's given you, together with your spouse, with your wife, in my case, that you could raise a child, and all the love and challenges that go into raising a child, and all that had to come in order for this child to turn out the way they did turn out, based on your parents and grandparents. And so many things that have to come together, both that are some things that are up to you, and things that are not up to you, beyond your power and your choices. So many things have to fall into place for this beautiful, healthy children to come together in union. It's a huge thank you. So that's the Bahalotcha, when you could raise up your child, raise up, as Rashi says, that they could stand on their own 2 feet and now develop and establish their own family. That's a wonderful blessing. And I want to sort of conclude with a beautiful story that I heard, talking about marriage and understanding that you have to go beyond yourself in marriage. I just heard a beautiful story that Dr. Ira Weiss, I mean, I heard this a while back, but I just reheard this. This is actually an actual live interview with Dr. Ira Weiss, who was the chief cardiologist of the Rebbe, Rabbi Menachem and the Chabad Rebbe, after his heart attack. So Dr. Ira Weiss, after the Rebbe's heart attack, I remember this in 1977, Dr. Ira Weiss was the chief cardiologist, and he says he once shared with the Rebbe that there's some tension at home. He's troubled because, as a cardiologist, there's always life-threatening situations that he is called upon to tend to care for, and his wife is complaining that he doesn't spend time at home with her, with the children, and he's struggling. He doesn't know what to do. So the Rebbe told him, "Why don't you do what I do?" And he was kind of taken aback, and he thought to himself, the Rebbe, who hundreds of thousands of Jews turned to him, why am I bothering the Rebbe? The Rebbe is far busier than I am. So why am I even bothering the Rebbe with this? But especially when the Rebbe says, why don't you do what I do? So he was taken aback, and he asks the Rebbe, what is that? And the Rebbe said to him the following. The Rebbe said to him that every single day, no matter what is going on, no matter how busy, and the Rebbe would be in the office with private audience sometimes till 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning. This is known. We know this. I know this. He says, but every single day, I spend 15 minutes to a half hour sitting down with my wife, the Rebbetzin, and we have a cup of tea together. And the Rebbe says, I treat this time as sacred as I treat the time when I daven, when I pray to God. Now, the Rebbe's prayer to God was as holy as a human being's prayer can be. And the Rebbe says, this time is as sacred to me as that. And then the Rebbe said to the doctor, if you do that, your wife will feel how important it is to you that after a while she will say, go take care of the patient that needs you. It is that dedication, that commitment that she will see that you have to her, that will satisfy her want, her desire, her time that she wants of yours for both herself and her kinalach and her children. And I this is in today's day and age. This is going back probably 40, 50 years ago, before there was smartphones and computers and all the distractions that we constantly have. How much more so today? So in our marriage, and in honor of my son's marriage, and then for our own marriages, I want to just tell you another sort of cute story, if you allow me to. There's a story told, and it's also a little Torah study over here. There's a story told of two great Torah geniuses that lived in the same city, in Dvinsk. It was the Reb Yosef Rosen, known as the Tzofnas Paneach, and the Or Sameach. They both wrote great commentaries on the Torah, and they once had a discussion, had an argument. Talmudic argument a lot of times gets into sort of core, deeper issues, the issue beyond the issue. And they were talking about the halachic sort of mechanism, effect of marriage. Let me explain. So, by Jewish law, by biblical law, what affects the marriage of husband and wife? It is what is called kiddushin, literally meaning sanctification. Interestingly enough, that the mechanism of marriage is called kiddushin, no difference than kedusha, which means holiness, sanctity. Now, what is the legal act that brings forward this kiddushin, this marriage or betrothal between husband and wife? It is giving the ring, putting on the ring, as we know, which has to be a certain value, where the husband puts the ring onto his wife. Many details, I'm not going to go into all the details, or to his bride, I'm not going to go through all the details. But that is the kiddushin, the tabas, that we put on the ring, and we say the words that with this ring you are consecrated to me according to the laws of Moshe and Moses and Israel. Now the argument, the in-depth argument, or the more refined argument that the Tzafnas Paneach, Rabbi Yosef Rosen, had with the Or Sameach was whether the marriage, the act of marriage, the putting on of the ring, is an act that happens once and its effects continue throughout the marriage, or whether every moment, every instant, the marriage is reoccurring through that one act. Now you might say, what's the difference? But they went on to argue and brought proof from different places in the Torah and the Talmud that there are differences in Jewish law, whether you accept argument number one, that it's a one-time act that affects the rest of life, or the act reoccurs. It's similar to what Kabbalists discuss, that God created the world and then the effects are throughout history until today, or Hashem is recreating the world every moment. Chassidus and Kabbalah explains in great detail that God recreates the world every single moment. So here too, they were arguing, and finally the Or Sameach accepts what Rabbi Yosef Rosen, the Tzafnas Paneach, argued and brought proof from different places in the Torah that it is something that happens every single moment. And at that point, in his way of acquiescing and accepting the position of the Tzafnas Paneach, he says to him, if that's the case, you just got married, Mazel Tov, even though he was already married for many years. Why do I say this? I say this because the message that we have over here of marriage and the humility and the meaning and bringing God into the marriage, understanding that it's not just a sort of some romantic Hollywood act of getting married and being married, but it's a holy act. It's a meaningful act. It's a purposeful, I've shared this in the past. I like watching nature. The way to know that an animal has been successful, has succeeded, is when it raises its offspring. That's the key to the success of an animal. We are far greater than animals. We have a purpose. We have meaning in life. As Torah tells us at creation, it is our job to elevate the rest of the world. So let us both thank God for the marriage of our children. Let us value our own marriage, as the Tzafnas Paneach accepted, convinced, or Sameach, that marriage is something that reoccurs every single moment. No matter how wonderful your marriage was until now, let's reintroduce the deeper meaning and approach to marriage from a Torah perspective. And thank you all for participating in my simcha. Hopefully the lesson, inspiration, and the sharing of these words of Torah will be for a merit for my son and my soon-to-be daughter-in-law, that they should have blessings. The blessings in the Genesis, where God says all the blessings to Adam and Eve, may it be fulfilled for them. All the blessings we say in the chuppah, the blessings that you're sharing over here. Thank God they could stand on their own 2 feet in their marriage, and they should continue to inspire themselves and raise a beautiful, holy family as a continuation to the chain, to the beautiful, holy, and godly, and traditions, the beautiful traditional chain of our people and our ancestors, all that they have gone through, so this one marriage can happen. When one Jewish marriage happens, it's a microcosm and a simcha for all the Jewish people. So Mazel Tov to all of us, and God willing, you should have marriages in your family with much nachas from all your children. Have a beautiful and fantastic and blessed new week.